Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this Ag Forecast brought to you by Agrible, the makers of Morning Farm Report. Our software gives growers the insights to make the best decisions possible with our operations. Well, happy Thanksgiving, and I got to be honest with you, I'm very glad to see a map that looks just like this on Thanksgiving. You see, this is the 3 day total accumulated precipitation from Wednesday through Friday of this week. And what makes me happy is really the only two places where we're dealing with some adverse weather are kind of confined way down here in the southeast. So we're talking only down into Florida, where we have a system that's kind of rolling through from the southwest to northeast, bringing in some precipitation late in the night on Wednesday through much of Thursday. Other than that, really the only other thing is really quite expected for this time of year, which is some stronger onshore flow here for the Pacific Northwest, bringing in quite a bit of precipitation to the, especially to the higher country out there. But to be able to look across the entire United States and see a lack of a major winter storm coming through during Thanksgiving week is quite a blessing indeed because of all the travel. So I'm very happy to see that things are quite calm right now. But let's take a look at the last 30 days of precipitation. I keep stressing this for one reason, and that's because it's very important throughout winter just be monitoring who's getting the precip and who is not. Now, we know the delays that all of the heavy precipitation in the eastern Corn Belt that we've gotten with harvest. But again, we just see overall here that we've had a pretty dry pattern settling into the middle part of the country. And why I'm bringing this up is because we're going to take a look in a moment at the U.S. Drought Monitor and how much it's changed recently. But I want you to pay attention in my forecast to how I discuss the position of this large ridge that keeps reestablishing itself over the southwest. I think that's going to be a key player to watch evolve over the month of December. But first, the latest U.S. Drought Monitor was released on Wednesday. And what we can see here is that we do have some drought kind of to the south and in the very far northern parts of the Corn Belt. So this is drought lingering from our last growing season here. But we've seen that drier pattern really bring in some drought into parts of Texas, getting into Oklahoma, Arkansas, some into Missouri, getting back into the lower Mississippi River Valley. So I'm watching this closely as the upcoming months move on, just because if that's still there and somehow survives, the drought survives through spring, that's a pretty big indicator that 2018's growing season may have some trouble. So it's just something we're watching. I'm not making any calls on this yet. It's just something that we're going to be watching. One thing I do want you to see is that in the last month, that same region has actually seen between a 1 and 3 class degradation on drought conditions. So we're developing this drought. And so it's important to see how precipitation patterns are going to evolve. And a lot of those precipitation patterns are going to be governed by the overall flow of the jet stream, which is what we always look at in our videos. So much can be understood about what the weather is going to hold in terms of temperature and precipitation patterns by simply looking at the trough ridge pattern. So let's get right back here on Thanksgiving. Early in the morning, Thanksgiving, we still have the well-established ridge out west, keeping things very warm here. We have a big trough that's kind of extending off of the west coast right down toward Hawaii, and that is what's bringing some stronger onshore flow into the Pacific Northwest, bringing precipitation in there. But relatively dry due to the presence of that ridge and the cold dry air that's in this trough. So this trough here over the Hudson Bay that dragged a cold front all the way down to the southeast kept things quite cold. So for the eastern half of the country, it's a chilly Thanksgiving. But as we kind of step forward here, getting into later in the day on Thursday into Friday, what I'm really watching here is, again, our southwestern ridge is established. Getting into the weekend, we have another little shortwave trough kind of rounding the base of this bigger trough feature here. And as we continue to move this on into Saturday night and into Sunday morning, that's going to bring another reinforcing shot of cold air to the eastern half of the country, while the midsection of the country really warms up. Now, this is where things kind of get interesting. By the time we get into Monday and really into Tuesday, we see a little bit of a breakdown in the pattern. We have a broader trough that's moving through the northwest, getting in here into parts of Montana and Wyoming. And out ahead of that, we're going to be seeing a pretty good surge of warm air, basically driven on some southerly winds coming right into the midsection of the country and the midsection of the Corn Belt. But as that system goes through, it's going to drag through a cold front. And at this stage, this was the system I was worried about a while ago on our last update, is maybe bringing in some severe weather. At this stage, it looks as though it might be starved for some moisture, although we have good upper level dynamics here. It's not looking at this point that we're as worried as I was a while ago about a big low pressure system moving across the country. But again, that was a 10-day outlook. That's really tricky to pick those things out. So it looks like things are calming down a bit. But look at this. A week from Thanksgiving, we see the reestablishment of that ridge out west. Now, if we just kind of take all of this and put it together, I'm going to show you first what our temperature patterns are going to do. When you watch this kind of just with your eyes blurred, what you tend to notice is that we tend to stay warm out west for the most part, and we have a cool bias east. Let's start on Thursday. Remember that big trough that sits over the Hudson Bay and the cold front it brought through? Well, look at the cooler weather we're going to be experiencing in the eastern half of the country for Thanksgiving. So this is early morning Thanksgiving. We see that the warmer air tries to push toward the east by the time we get into early morning Friday. But again, big ridge out west, broader trough over the east, keeping things cool. But the eastern part of the Corn Belt, we'll see a warm up as we get into midday Friday. Getting into Saturday, we start to see some warmer air come through here before our next trough kind of digs through the Great Lakes region, bringing in another shot of colder air that's going to move into the eastern half of the country for the start of next week. But we're going to see again our wild roller coaster ride of temperatures continues, which is very typical of November. What we saw is that a trough starts to dig into the system. Remember, we just saw this a moment ago. Out ahead of it, there's that warm air. Look at the warm air surging in the central plains. Basically, though, at this time, no precipitation coming out of this, just a warm air pushing under a ridge here, and that spreads to the east by the time we get into Monday, into Tuesday, getting into the Corn Belt and through here. So again, after that passes, look, cold front comes through and our wild ride continues. So I'm just showing you the up-down nature of this kind of transient pattern that we have going on right now. And what does all this mean in terms of precipitation? Well, here's your next 10 days. What it looks like overall is a pretty dry pattern. Again, that big system I was concerned about, the 28th, 29th is right now kind of pulled out of the models, which is good. Things kind of calmed down, timing changed a little bit, so that's a good feature. But we can see some stronger onshore flow in the Pacific Northwest, typical of this time of year. But look at that big ridge. The persistent troughing over the Northwest tends to keep troughing over the Northeast tends to keep things relatively dry. So we got a drier 10-day pattern moving forward. So again, this is a region that's been dry that over the next 10 days is looking to be staying dry. So that's that overall flow pattern we're seeing right now. Now let's take our attention out a little bit longer term here. When I just kind of get asked, hey, what does December kind of hold for us in terms of temperatures? There's a pretty strong bit of evidence from a lot of features. One, Pacific sea surface temperatures, the fact that we've got a big deepening trough over the Bering Sea, combined with the fact we've packed some cold air into the Canadian plains here, means that I think our chances of having a cold pocket of air throughout much of the month of December, where I'm circling in through here, getting over to the East Coast, is in well agreement with what's going on with the long-range European model update. Again, that pesky southwestern ridge is a major part of this. So there are several big features that are kind of combining to give us this overall flow pattern. So certainly a December, not like the one we had in the last couple of Decembers, which were quite warm. But make a point here. There will be times this December where we will see some warmer air surging to the east, because overall the pattern is flowing, which means it's not completely stuck in a big blocked pattern. But overall, I think this is what we're going to see in terms of temperatures. But we know that right now what's really moving our grain markets is what's going on in South America. So here's a look at your next 10 days of total accumulated precipitation. So rather than showing you an animation, I'm going to show you the end result. And that is some regions that were dry recently have been very wet and are going to be continuing to get quite a bit of precipitation, basically from Mato Grosso over to Goiás, the Tocantins, and even getting all the way down here into Rio Grande do Sul, Parna, which is this one here. The only regions I'm seeing that are dry for the next 10 days really get into the far southern regions of Brazil, into Uruguay, and then also getting down here into Argentina. So this is important because what a lot of the guys that are trading in the markets right now are going to be looking at is how has this pattern, which we know started off dry in the northern growing regions and in parts in Argentina, how is this going to evolve really as we get through December, January, February, into March? And what they're going to see, well, this is what I want you to see. They're going to be seeing that the National Multi-Model Ensemble, that's 8 global models, then combined with the ECNWF, that's the European model, the models are right now showing a pretty strong signal of a drier pattern in eastern Brazil. So this does include parts of Mato Grosso, Goiás, which is here, the Tocantins there, and also the models are coming in dry down here in parts of Argentina. So what's going on right now is that folks are seeing this on the long-range outlooks, and as the shorter-range model runs are coming into agreement with this, that could really start to put some pressure on the corn and soybean markets, as we move through our winter time period here in North America. But this is what everyone's seeing, and so I think it's important that we all see this too in these video updates. So this is where our pressures might be coming from in terms of moving the market around over the next few weeks here. And so just to keep you updated, I wanted to make sure you saw the latest. So with that, I just want to wish everyone a fantastic and a safe and happy Thanksgiving. I look forward to talking again after the weekend. So until then, we hope you look forward to that next video coming out on Monday morning. To get morning farm report for your operations, complete with a daily email that shows a snapshot of your field conditions each morning, go to morningfarmreport.com. Sign up for that free account. Full grower accounts are free if you sign up for our Sustainable Yield program or for growers who work with AD merchandisers. Look forward to talking again on Monday.